All right, so Calvin, wanted to show you the graphic for this episode. Hopefully it's cool. Have you ever seen... We'll go back to 1975. There's a little sitcom that John Travolta was on. Called Welcome Back, Kotter. Have you ever heard of it or seen it?
No.
All right. Well, it's something. It's something. But yeah. So here's what I have here for our Welcome Back episode. If it meets your approval, that is.
One more time.
All right, one more time. All right. So, it's not a great Photoshop job, but
That's what's so funny about it. Like,
yeah,
it's tremendous. Like the fact that the Photoshop is so bad makes it so good.
I mean, I tried my best, Cal, but whatever,
Bro.
But yeah, so that being said, welcome back, everybody. This is episode 99. We took a long break, and today's episode is just going to be kind of filling in on the last, 8 to 10 months, I guess. It's been a little bit of a time since we've recorded together, Calvin.
That it has.
I'm back to...
if I recall correctly, I think it was like 8 to 10 months.
Yeah, I'm happy to get back in the flow. So yeah, we just kind of want to give you a little heads up on some updates on the podcast and on life. Took a little step away, mostly because my daughter was born a little over 8 months ago. That was the big thing. But yeah, so first of all, we are giving the whole video recording podcast a go. We took a little survey on Facebook asking if people wanted, video version, just like a little appetizer with a snippet from each episode, or if you wanted the whole dealio, raw and unedited, calling it, hash browns all the way. Little Waffle House reference there. And overwhelmingly, I think it was 80-something% of you all said that they preferred the raw, unedited nonsense. So we'll be posting to, I believe, YouTube and Facebook video, the raw, unedited versions of each episode. Sometimes that'll include some banter beforehand. Sometimes that'll include some banter after. Sometimes that'll include a lot of awkward pauses and things.
Yeah.
And maybe you will look at us differently and realize that we are not the professionals that the magic of editing makes us out to be. I don't think that we even come across that way, but
no, not even close.
Yeah. but yeah, so I'm really excited about that. You can go ahead and just find us, Let God Die, on YouTube, and the plan is to release the longer extended versions of the video at the same time as the audio. Still find the audio on all of the podcast services, but the video will be more of just a extended version if you want to see our faces and just experience some more of the raw nonsense. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And what else? I was thinking the other day, just that the last 8 months, thinking about how to sum that up. There's been a lot of good, a lot of heart-wrenching times. But yeah, so my daughter was born a little over 8 months ago. So that has, I know, right? Calvin's met her.
Evelyn is darling.
Yeah, she's pretty great.
She's a pretty outstanding child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just recently she learned how to crawl and stand herself up at furniture. She said her first couple words when we were in Michigan. She said she pulled off a couple high dads. I don't think she knew what she was saying, but it counts,
Right.
But since then she hasn't. So, slacking. But
what can you do?
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible though. I'm work from home dad. The way that my wife words it is that I just work third shift, usually at around 10 p.m. That's when I start working. When I have woodwork out in the garage or in the basement. So it works out well for us. It's a cool deal. We've been pretty exhausted. Just the other day I was thinking like, man, I feel like I've lost sight of a lot of things that I care about. Not everything, but just like some things where I've just been like, all right, like I feel like I want to like get my bearings about me. And just kind of reassess my direction and whatnot. I mean, at the same time, a lot of cool things have happened. Being stay-at-home dad, I have a lot of time available to get together with guys for lunch or for coffee. Sometimes that looks like Bible study. Sometimes that looks like just talking about life. Sometimes praying together. But that's been on my heart a lot more of the one-on-one, like discipleship and just sharing life together. And that's been tough because there has been a period of time that even with meeting with people, I've realized like, man, I haven't been present, a lot of that due to being distracted by a kiddo. I love it. But yeah, it has been kind of challenging, just kind of challenging all around, but, I don't know. It's just been a huge blessing. But also in the last 8 months, one of my best friends passed away. It was, and Calvin knew him really well, our friend Ryan. And he passed away, I think when my daughter was like 3 weeks old or so. And that was, I think I'm pretty sure he's, like the first or the closest friend that I've had that's passed away. He had rocky last few years with a lot of things with addiction issues and stuff, but legit like the realest dude in a lot of ways that I've ever known. Didn't bullcrap me when I approached him on really hard conversations. I don't know. It's still tough because there are times that I'm just like, man, can't wait to see Ryan. Like there are moments that it's almost like it's still not real to me. But it ended up being some cool things happened surrounding that time. I was able to go to his funeral in Canada, and then we had a memorial service in Michigan for him, and just reconnected with some friends that I hadn't talked to in a very long time. I mean, a couple of them that I don't think I've really hung out with in 12 or 15 years. And that's been really incredible just to kind of like rekindle those friendships. It has been cool just to have a lot of like tough conversations and reconnect with some people through that time. I think that we'll get into more of that in his story, over the course of time. But another thing, to kind of switch gears from that, but me and Kendra, my wife, we've sensed it being on our hearts to launch or be a part of a launch. We don't really know of a house church for a little bit now, and it really just started a little over a year ago. I was sitting in church and just kind of had like this. Sometimes I'll just jot down notes, and oftentimes it's just very random, and I don't really know what the motivation is behind it, or if it's just my thoughts or something that God's placing on my heart. But I remember just jotting down like, I wonder if our future holds starting a church, and that was an idea that I didn't really talk about, and just kind of like let resonate or marinate, I don't know, whatever, for a while. Still don't know what the timing looks like for that. I think there's a lot of growing that I need to do, and that me and Kendra need to do in our marriage, and just some things that I think need to be more in place before going there. Just wanting to be wise about going about that in the right way. But anyway,
it's a huge decision, dude. Like, decide to actually just like start like a house church. Like, I think a lot of pastors even. I think when people think about pastors, they don't necessarily think about what all goes into shepherding.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's very much so a lot, and anything like even as far as like your home life or family life, like all that stuff will also play a role into how you minister too. So like, it's nothing to ever just go about lightly. So dude, I totally understand.
Yeah, totally. And a big part of that was there was opportunity back in November to go out to San Francisco to spend time out at We Are Church. They have like essentially house church planting training. It was like a 10-day thing. And I want to have some people that I met out there on the podcast sometime soon, just to kind of fire back and forth some ideas and thoughts. Just about like what it means to be the church. So that's been, that was very challenging, confirmed a lot of things that had been stewing in my brain. And I would say corrected a lot of things, a whole lot of thoughts that I had about, I don't know, like what I envisioned church to be. I learned that were more my thoughts and not really, I don't know. I just think that they were more my preferences than what God actually would have for us. So, still praying about all of that, discerning, the timing and what that'll look like. But yeah, so I have no idea, which is kind of a cool place to be in a way. Me and Kendra like really love our home church, and we really love the community there. And so it's not like there's this need that we have the ability to fill, and like, but more so, we've just sensed that like this is something that that God is, I don't know if you want to say calling us to, impressing on us, whatever. And we're continually just kind of weighing our motives and wanting that to come from a real genuine place. Dude, Josh Capicelli, love that guy.
Hey.
This is why I record video, because of candid moments like that.
Gotta love them.
Yeah, but
with your idea with like house church planting stuff, like I mean, apparently it's like a really big deal in the church now. Like I feel like it's like the sexy thing that everyone's kind of going after.
Yeah,
like not in a bad way, because it's good and it's super fruitful. Like I feel like a lot of the approaches are more, I guess seeing it the way that I see it, it should definitely be way more like, instead of an alternative to church, will be like an addition to what God's already doing. Like, it's a deeper partnership. I feel like, I feel like a lot of people that I know who are looking into it, like a lot of it comes from a place of wanting to be an alternative to like the body. And I'm like, well, it could just be an addition in a more like low key form that's equally just as fruitful. I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't need to like battle against the body, like,
right.
And that's what we're really trying to be intentional about, is like talking with church leadership and wanting to just be on the same page. And I don't always do the greatest job at that, but I'm trying to be more intentional with that kind of thing. But yeah, so we can delve more into that in future episodes. Like, I think that would be really rad, and I think it'll just kind of naturally come up because of things that are on your heart and things that are on my heart and like things that are on our guest's heart. But yeah, I don't want to like just move on from that, because we could go a lot of different directions. But we are going to be hitting up our guest here in a second. So I want to kind of switch gears and let you have some space to tell us what's new in your life, Calvin. Fill us in, man. It's been a bit. I mean, I know a lot that's been going on, but the people don't.
The people.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to say I began, I guess like the reason for my busyness was I was at the trucking company A&R Transport for a while. I think I worked there for close to between 9 months to a year. It all felt like a blur. yeah, it went so fast. And like at that point, I was working there, and also I was working at Route 21, so I was working 2 jobs at the time. Just hustling, trying to make money and stuff like that, and trying to save up, establish credit. You know, all the adult things that aren't fun but are like helpful. You know, so kind of dove into that world. That job had me working 10-hour days, 6 days a week, some weeks. You know, so like upon being a really physical job working with semi trucks, like I actually drove semi trucks, so I know how to drive a semi, which that was fun. Very frustrating at first. One of probably the most humbling things I ever learned how to do, besides you teaching me how to drive a stick to save our lives when we drove back from Pennsylvania.
It was fun, man.
In your Golf.
Kept us alive, hey, so
right.
You did good.
In the moment, it's like, hey, I need you to drive this. I'm falling asleep on the road. Don't kill us. Like, yeah, sure. No pressure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like learning how to drive them and park the trailers was like really, really humbling at first, but I sucked at it terribly.
Yeah.
So bad. And like me, I'm the type of person that like, I don't like to suck in public. So like if I'm bad at something, I like to kind of take my time with it and kind of learn it a bit and spend time with it and develop it before, you know, I guess like broadcasting it, I guess in that sense. So in that moment, I was kind of in a place where I'm like, wow, well, this is like kind of humiliating. And the Lord's like, but it's also like kind of what being made new and being renewed is kind of like. And I'm like, okay, go on.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, well, you're learning something new that you never walked into. And it's kind of the same way with like learning to trust me for things you never trusted me for. So like, if it sounds over spiritual, then it sounds over spiritual. But there's a lot that Jesus taught me in learning how to actually park trucks, about like my character and how like I view myself in ways. I put pressure on myself that he never puts on me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was something that, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, they call it over spiritualizing it or whatever, but like, yeah, I mean, God's in that stuff and he'll use whatever he wants to teach us stuff, you know, which is cool, you know, just that there are times that it's like, oh, am I like overhyping this or whatever? But it's like, all right, well, maybe that's what God used, you know, and I don't know.
I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it was. And I'm kind of glad he did redeem it, because like it was really hard. I was like questioning even in my heart, like, should I even do this? Like, should they just hire a person in to drive? Because I'm just having just the hardest time trying to figure this thing out. And the Lord's like, no, you are the person for the job. You just need to grow at it. And that kind of began for me like a real chapter of like really understanding and being okay in my own skin, you know, the fact that I am like a work in progress, and there's a lot of joy to be found in that. Rather than like, man, I have a long way to go, and it's going to be such a crazy journey and I have so much to learn. And rather than like, these are opportunities that I get to like develop as a person. So these are things I should delight in instead of like begrudging them, you know? So I eventually got the hang of driving the trucks and became really proficient at it. And prayer, and a lot of it was cuss words. I'm just being real. Like a lot of it was both. And in that process, man, like I'm super grateful for it, because it helped our company like turn trailers way faster than we did before. And I actually worked my way up in that job from just working washing the tanks to actually becoming the lead supervisor of the tank wash. So that came with a little bit of a pay increase, but also a higher demand on me mentally and physically every single day.
Yeah.
And just after a while, you know, of working that job, I just kind of mentally began to just drift and just idle by, you know, and just got comfortable making the amount of money I was making. And, you know, in my place with Jesus, my personal time with the Lord was not as strong as it could have been. So a lot of my time was spent either working and sleeping.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of time I spent doing that. Putting that stuff. I was still like doing Tuesday nights, mentally exhausted, but still doing Tuesday nights, you know, and working just from a place of just not being rested. So,
and real quick for people that don't know what happens Tuesday nights, can you give a summary of that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Tuesday nights originally started as a dudes group in your house, which is now where I live,
Which is
because
where
you're my
you are right
landlord.
now. Yeah,
Currently, the room where we would have small group is where I am right now.
yeah, yeah.
Started as a dudes group, just to, I guess, help our friends like just take next steps with Jesus, whatever that looks like for them. We would basically like you would put on messages and we would listen. A lot of it was like Father DeMello, who
Yeah, yeah.
like the one message we watched at your place was like super super life giving and very like just thought provoking. So it began as that, and eventually we opened it up to a small group where we would have worship nights on Tuesdays. And from worship night Tuesdays, it became worship night and Bible study. And out of that place, we invited more people into it. So now, my home church, Restoring Hope out in Wyandotte, we host Tuesday nights as a worship night, and we call it Throne Room.
Hmm.
And it comes from the Bible passage that says that we can come before the Lord, come before the throne room of God with freedom and confidence. And the whole point of it is like for us to have our hearts and our minds just basically refocused in on who Jesus says that we are and who God is, to keep us constantly encouraged in the faith and for us to build one another up as a body of believers. And we open that up to people who aren't necessarily like part of our Restoring Hope Church. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people from many different churches that come, but we open that up on Tuesday nights for people to have a place to be who want to kind of understand or know the heart of God and to know that they're welcomed at Jesus's table because he says so.
Yeah.
So we've done that, and that's been like crazy fruitful. So I ended up leaving the job at the trucking company, which was kind of weird because normally, the Christian thing to do would be like, hey, give your boss like a 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I literally took my lunch break and I just didn't come back to work.
Oh, yeah.
I was mentally just exhausted. I was not in a good place at all. I just tired, frustrated, angry. It was a lot of weird stuff, man. Like still in a place of just like wrestling with like life, I guess.
Yeah.
And what I want to do and how I felt like the job that I was working demanded so much of me that I had nothing left to give to the things I really truly cared about.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like internally, I just kind of felt myself dying like on the inside, and I'm like, I don't want to go out like this. Like there has to be a better way. And so out of that place, I ended up leaving that job, and which was weird because I texted my boss my resignation literally right after I punched out for lunch and didn't punch back in.
Oh, wow.
And by the grace of God, he was like, hey, like, I totally understand, this job isn't for everyone, but like, I just want you to sign some paperwork for me before you go. So if you can come back up here tomorrow and we can like talk and everything. So I did that. And it took me a while. I was a little frustrated at first, but I didn't know what the paperwork was. And like when he sat me down, he was basically like, hey, like, I know this job is crazy and like we have high turnover. I knew for sure like you weren't going to be like able to last forever, but I don't want you to leave like this. Like our company has seen such success since you started working with us that this paperwork is basically saying you gave me a 2 week notice. So if you ever need to come back here, we can bring you back on.
No way.
I just know you need rest. Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick.
I know it was my mind was like, I couldn't pick my jaw off the floor. I was like, this is crazy. Like, even in the midst of me being like a complete jerk about leaving this job, and like, though it was never personal with my boss or anything, it was the higher ups that I had issues with and their lack of support for our terminal. I still had favor with him enough that he wanted to help me, and he knew that I just kind of needed time to clear my head and, have a break underneath me. So he allowed me that. And even to this day, like me and him are really good friends still. So after leaving that job, I ended up dumping full time like into like ministry stuff. Like by the grace of God, I had peace of mind in my heart, knowing that I felt that I was doing what I needed to do in the moment. I ended up working at Route 21, ended up picking up extra hours there to keep afloat. I wanted to make sure that the people around me that I lived with weren't going to be without a house or bills or anything like that. So like I did work a job yet and still, but it was one that allowed me a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
And like out of that place, felt a lot more rested. Um, Jesus gave me a car. That happened.
A car that was just like given to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a friend of mine named Maggie Marsh. She's awesome. One day, her parents, I guess, just randomly went to the dealership and got new cars, and they gave her their newer car, and she's like, "I have this car here, and like I'm just kind of like thinking if there's anyone in our community who just needs a car." And like a couple people tagged me in a Facebook post.
No way.
At the time, I was at work and like praying and asking Jesus, like, this Saturn that I have has like 300,000 miles and everything wrong with it, and I'm gonna recycle a Pastor Tackett joke. Um, the car was named Shanita because she needed brakes, she needed oil,
goodness.
she needed she needed everything. So
Such a
yeah, it
dad
was one of
joke,
those.
man.
It's awful, isn't it? But it's so good. Like you get the point.
I mean, it's a rough one, man.
It's
mean-
heavy, but it's so good. So yeah, with that being said, I had a project car basically for 3 years. And I just got sick of working on it. And that produced a lot of frustration in me too, because I'm working this crazy job. I have good credit, and I keep getting turned down for cars when I go to apply for cars. And like little did I know it was the Lord's grace on my life. So I didn't get the car I wanted, Challenger RT with the Hemi engine. I have big dreams, but the Lord said, "Hey man, there's a difference between your wants and your needs. You want a Challenger RT, but you need a car."
Yeah.
So he provided me a car through Maggie. Like literally after they tagged me in the post, I asked her like, "Hey, how much you selling this car for?" Like, I don't make much, but I can make something happen. And she was like, "Let me pray about it." And she prayed about it, and the Lord said, "Hey, I want to give you this car. You're not paying me any money for it." So I had a 2008 car with 113,000 miles on it. Thursday night, she told me she was giving it to me. Friday by 10 a.m., I had it tagged and plated in my name.
Dude,
Like,
that's rad.
insane. But yeah, it's been a lot of grace, a lot of grace in the midst of me even being overly worried about myself and not seeking Jesus the way that I should have, and not allowing him to just love me in that time when it was really hard. He woke me up, and he still like held on to his end, and he didn't let me go. And that's like seriously why I'm a believer. It's why I'm a Christian. Like, God is so good to me, man. It's not that I like give him crap or I purposely do it to see how far his love would go, but in the moments where I'm hurting, he's so patient with me.
Yeah.
And he's never like abusive in his correction. He's always wooing me in and like, "Hey man, like I know things are rough, but you have to keep focused on me." Like,
Yeah.
he's instructing yet and still. So yeah, there's been a lot of grace on that too. And I don't know. Real quickly, I got a blood clot in my leg. That happened.
Oh, no way.
I thought about that. I was like, oh, what else happened in that 8 months? Yeah. So a week before my birthday, I had went to the gym to work out, and I worked legs that day. But for some odd reason, a couple days after working out legs, like my legs were still sore. Normally it takes a couple days to recover. So I'm like, well, maybe it's muscle soreness. But by the time the third day happened where I woke up, my leg was literally swollen, and it was noticeably bigger than my other one. And at the time, I had a friend of mine staying with me at the house, and he convinced me, you should probably go to a doctor and get this checked out.
Yeah.
So he convinced me to go to hospitals. He knows I hate hospitals. I hate hospitals. Like, hate hospitals. So we go. They do the ultrasound, and I have a blood clot in the back of my left knee, right behind the kneecap. And it was causing blood blockage. It was in my vein, not actually in my artery, but in my vein, the vein coming back up my leg. So my leg like swelled with fluid, and it was atrociously painful. Walking was a nightmare. They got me started on blood thinners, and I've been on them ever since. So like, as of my recent appointment yesterday, I'm only going to be on for 2 more months as a preventative measure because the clot's gone in Jesus' name. Like,
Sick.
everything's like healed up since then, and I had an ultrasound since the first time I went, and everything's like cleared up, but I have like a little bit left on the wall, so they're trying to make sure that that doesn't become anything or preventative problems. So they're gonna have me on for 2 more months. So like, through that time, I was like super just afraid to die because I thought like like DVTs, which is like a deep vein thrombosis, is treatable. By all means, it's treatable. And they say 1 in 5 people die from having them because they're diagnosed too late.
Yeah, oh, gotcha.
Yeah. By the grace of God, mine was diagnosed early enough to be treated. Like, had I waited on a couple more days, like, who knows what would have happened. So,
dude, praise Jesus
yeah,
for that, man. That's crazy.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I want to definitely make sure, like, you know, when you see like a statistic like 1 in 5, you're like, oh, that's like 20%. Like, that's whatever. But like, that's
a pretty
20%
high
of people who, yeah, like
Yeah.
those 20% of people that are sons and uncles like are dead. Like, I could not dismiss that in my head if I tried to. So a lot of that season was just me getting all the clutter out of my life and out of my heart and just really focusing on Jesus as if it was the only thing that mattered in my life. And that helped tremendously through the healing process.
Legit, man.
But yeah, and I'm still here, still standing, and life's good and God's good and he's still teaching me. And I have become way more comfortable just knowing that I'm loved by him and that's all he ever calls me to be. So yeah. Legit. Sorry that's so long.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's really rad. We do have to close out this portion because we actually have an episode that we're late on calling the guy on. But yeah, so thank you guys for bearing with our long absence. I think we had over like 1,000 listens over the months that we were not active, and I don't know, that had me really stoked, you know. I mean, not that we like paid careful attention to the numbers or that it's about that, but just like to see that people were like still listening, even while we were not actively putting stuff out. I don't know, that just means a lot. So we appreciate your support. And yeah, we'll be back next week with our 100th episode. And I don't know, we have some cool things in store for that. That'll just be kind of like more looking back on the first 9 to 9. So yeah, thanks to you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.